This presentation got started after we saw the first agenda for this meeting, and Randy and I were sitting there talking about it, and it's like, it'd kind of be neat to see what's been done in terms of cooperative efforts with bass clubs and bass tournament organizations. So we asked Craig if we could have a presentation like this. He said, sure, you'd have to pay a dime. And so here we are. The use and importance of tournament supplied angler data in Texas. Well, we got to start, I guess, with the definition of what is data. And I'm kind of a lump around, a simple guy, so I try to use concepts I can understand. And data, very simply, is information about the fish, what species, what size, how aged, genetics. It's information about the fishery, how hard to catch are they, how easy to catch are they, abundance and catch, the environment, what kind of habitat, water quality, water fluctuations, geography, where is it located. And our fisheries management actions are data driven. What are fisheries management actions? It's things like stocking, it's regulations, it's habitat alterations, it's changes in access. And to be successful, these management actions need to be based on the sufficient amount of good quality data. And the better data we have, the better decisions we can make on these management actions. Well, there are multiple types of data. We typically collect what is called fishery-independent data. On largemouth bass, we use electrofishing. We can collect data on fish regardless of whether they can be caught or not. We can find out how much they weigh, how long they are. We can do their genetics, their age, population structures. Like I said, it doesn't matter if they can be caught, we can get information. Well, then there's fishery-dependent data. This is data we get from our Creel surveys. It's supplied from anglers, and it's all about catching those fish. It hinges on how well those fish are caught or not caught. Okay, here's an example of some fishery-dependent data. It's a 20-year trend data set from 4 lakes in Texas that is the percent of bass which were caught, which were then returned to the lake. This is tracking the progress of the spread of the catch and release ethic. This is from the data we got from you on our Creel surveys over 25 years. It shows back in the early 80s, mid-80s, people didn't release a lot of fish. By the time we got to 2005, most of the bass got released that were caught. And both of these data types, the dependent and independent data, are equally important because the data quality, how good that data is going to determine the final product quality. Our final product is better fishing. And so all of us want to make sure that our final product is a good one. Well, we have different types of angler supplied data. We have routine data that we collect from anglers. This is used for general monitoring trends, like that slide I just showed you. We get that from Creel. We also get that from tournament results. We then have data we want in order to answer specific fisheries management questions. Some of those questions are the economic valuation of bass fisheries and causes and effects of tournament mortality. Well, let's start with our Creel. Parks and wildlife samples somewhere between 15 and 20 lakes per year with the Creel survey. I imagine most of y'all here have probably endured the Creel survey. Somebody stopped you at the boat ramp, asked you a bunch of questions about your fishing, or stopped you out on the lake. Well, from this Creel, from this sample we get from you, this data, we can track fishing effort, hours of fishing pressure. We can do catch and catch rates, and we can do harvest rates. Now, we can also, with all these parameters, split it out into different species, largemouth bass, and different angler types. Here is some information from Lake OHI this past year. These are the fish that we observed in our Creel survey from OHI, the fish that we're going to call harvested for lack of a better term. Well, the yellow bars are the fish that were harvested by recreational anglers, and they were truly harvested. They went to the cleaning station and ended up in the hot grease. The blue bars are the ones that were the tournament-held fish that came through our Creel survey. Those fish were caught, retained, went through the Creel survey, and then returned back to the lake. What we see here is the tournaments, typically tournament anglers, brought in more fish, and they typically brought in bigger fish. But they also put those fish back. We had a couple of more general tournament monitoring, a couple of surveys in our past history that were statewide tournament surveys. And I'm sure some of y'all remember these as well, where following a tournament, the tournament director would fill out a survey form and send it back to Parks and Wildlife with how many anglers, how long the tournament was, what the winning weight was, and things like this. And this was a really neat data set for us because it was statewide. We could use certain parameters like the average winning weight or how many hours it took to catch a 5-pound bass on a particular reservoir to kind of compare. In one given year, we can compare reservoirs across the state with these parameters, or for the multiple years of these surveys, we can view a trend on that same reservoir. And this kind of also extended our Creel survey reach to more lakes than what we could just do based on the manpower we have. Now it's statewide. We also have examples of lake-specific tournament supplied angler data. This is from Lake Falcon. We used to have a Friends State Park group that put on a benefit tournament for this lake. And it was a team tournament. It was 2-day. They had a 3-fish daily bag limit. And so this represents the winning weights in pounds for a 12-year period of the 6 fish. And what you can see is those 6 fish weigh 30 pounds or better every year. This includes some real low water years when some people were saying there are no fish in the lake, you can't catch anything. The data we received from the anglers indicated that, well, yeah, you could. You catch some really nice fish. Lake Amistad. In 2002, the National Park Service instituted a permitting process for their bass tournaments on that lake. In 2003, they began collecting some data from there, and then shortly after we got involved. Well, since 2003, we have information from 473 tournaments on Lake Amistad. That included 44,000 angler days, 99,500 largemouth bass that have been brought to the weigh just on the surveys we have. And that's not 100% compliance either. What we see is in 03, average weight, fish brought to weigh was about 2 pounds. By the time we got to 06, it climbed up to 3 pounds. By the time we got to 09, it dropped back down to about 2 1/4. And it looks like this year, it's going to be above that 2 1/4. It's really interesting when you look at water level fluctuations with data like this, self-imposed, more restrictive bag limits. Like a lot of tournaments out there have gone to a 3 fish per person or 3 fish per team. So that kind of changes those numbers, but you can see how that works that way. And Sam Rayburn Toledo Bend has a tournament monitoring program that they initiated in 2004. Their goals were to increase information on legal size and large fish. They use things like winning weights, the size of the big bass, percent of anglers or teams catching their limits, and this just indicated the use of the fishing qualities on those reservoirs. And I believe they use this also to document the recovery of the fishery at Sam Rayburn following the largemouth bass virus kill. Economic valuation, that was another one of the things that we get special data for. This is some really highly detailed economic information. I'm not sure if any of y'all have filled out one of our economic surveys, but it's 37 pages long, single-spaced, legal-size paper, front and back. And we ask questions, how much money did you spend for gas? How much money did you spend for food? How much money did you spend on motel? And we want to not only know how much you spend, but we want to know if you spent it at the lake, on your way to the lake, or somewhere out of town. They're really, really extensive surveys. Well, y'all returned 728 of these things to us for Lake OHI a few years ago. We found out on that lake in that year that, surprising to us, tournament angling wasn't that big of an economic impact on that reservoir. Y'all returned over 1,700 of them for Sam Rayburn. You're going to hear about this in a few minutes, and what all that meant. And then, just to show you that we don't just pick on tournament anglers, at Amistad we had 430 returns. That was from all angler types, to determine just how valuable that fishery was. We talked about the effects of, cause and effects of tournament mortality. Just to go over the Fizzing Study again, if you remember, there were 900 tournament anglers who stopped long enough to give us some information about what happened in the boat while they were fishing. We took 433 of the fish the tournament anglers caught and used those for our survival studies. And we examined over 3,600 of the fish the tournament anglers caught to see if they had barrow trauma. Another cause and effect of fishing mortality, term mortality, is exploitation. Once you're going to hear more about this in a minute, it's going to give you a whole lot better definition, but very simply put, exploitation is how much mortality is attributed to fishing over a given period of time. They've done a couple of studies on Eamon Carter and Sam Rayburn, and these are kind of just banner examples of how we can blend fisheries independent and fisheries dependent data. Parks and Wildlife went out to these two reservoirs, and we collected the fish with electrofishing. We recorded their lengths and weights, and we tagged those fish and put them back. Then we relied on y'all through Creel surveys and other means to tell us when you caught a tagged fish, so we could do the estimates of the exploitation. Well, as mentioned, we rely on fisheries-dependent data, which is the data you supply. It's a big part of the equation we use when we're coming up with our management activities. That data we get from you influences our ability to make fishing better. That's our job. Y'all have done a tremendous job, and we appreciate what you've done today with the Creel surveys, exploitation stuff, those economic surveys. And we really look forward to opportunities to continue with this partner effort that we have to manage our fisheries and make our fishing better.